Hello and welcome back to the Matrix Green Pill podcast. I'm your host, Hilmarie Hutchison, and today's guest is someone who brings heart, wisdom, and decades of leadership experience to the conversation on emotional wellness. Navixha Bagga is a leadership and emotional wellness coach who transitioned from a 25-year corporate IT career into purpose-driven coaching. She now helps individuals and organizations unlock resilience, lead mindfully, and build lives of clarity and purpose, especially teens and women navigating anxiety, identity, and burnout. Navixha, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello, Hilmarie, and to all the listeners, thank you so much for that extremely gracious introduction. I feel so welcomed and so ecstatic to be here today. Thank you.
I am so looking forward to this conversation. Let's start a bit with your background. Can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So, firstly, I'm a constant learner. That is my life purpose and my life journey. However, more tangibly speaking, so I've spent about 23 years in corporate IT. I've been leading teams this whole time, delivering complex programs, working in environments where performance was everything. But Hilmarie, during this time, I began to notice that even the most talented people struggled where their inner world wasn't steady. And my pivot was subtle, my turning point in my journey. There was no breakdown, there was no drama.
You went from a 25-year career in corporate IT into coaching and emotional wellness. That's a big leap. Was there a specific moment or realization that pushed you to make the change?
So let me just clarify that while I was in corporate IT for 23 years, this was the professional side to my journey. However, through a passion pathway of my own and my own choosing, I had spent about 25 years in the space of mindfulness, breathwork, and personal development. So, this is something that I was doing as a volunteer and as an interest of mine, but not professionally. Just the dejection, the burnout that I experienced myself within corporate, and I certainly witnessed all around me through all layers of hierarchy, right? That is what pushed me and compelled me to honor my inner calling and to really be this wellness coach for legit, for real, and take that on as a profession as well. So that was my turning point.
You have mentioned this long career, and I love that you were doing this volunteer work beside your corporate job at the same time, if I heard that correctly.
Yes, you did, Hilmarie. This goes back to when I was still in India. I had the opportunity to train with a very large global nonprofit with a footprint across 170, 180 countries, or whatever that ever growing number is. And through them, I became a certified facilitator. And as a volunteer, while doing my day job as well, I spent immense number of hours and actually even traveled across India and significantly took a break from my work and spent 6 months where I was hosted by the Indian Army. And I traveled with their cantonments and was hosted at base camps through the elevation and trained hundreds of cadets, officers, and even senior Indian Army officers. I worked in the prison system, in boardrooms, college campuses. All of this was as a volunteer, but delivering a very, very credible international wellness and breathwork program. So that was my early orientation and training.
And as you mentioned there, you have worked with a wide range of people, from teens to senior leaders. What common emotional patterns or challenges do you notice across age groups?
Well, it may surprise you how universal actually these emotional struggles are across all people in the globe as well as across all age groups. So the common patterns that I've seen and experienced are overthinking and emotional overload, constantly second guessing ourselves, constantly feeling the need to please everybody else around ourselves, difficulty in understanding naming our own emotions, This pressure, the duality of appearing strong to others while feeling completely lost within, and this constant nagging sense of I'm not enough. So, Hilmarie, whether it's a teen, whether it's a CEO, whether it's a soldier, these inner battles are alarmingly similar. The circumstances are different for sure, but that emotional wiring is the same. But one thing that I will say is that teens are much more willing to unlearn. Adults, we are so hardened, we are so set in our ways, and we have so much information overload that we know a lot, but we are not willing to implement an iota.
That is interesting. I would not have expected that. I would have expected teens to be more vulnerable, but as you say, these different challenges are common across the age groups. But I love that teens are more willing to unlearn, whereas adults are more set in their ways, so maybe a bit more challenging to get them to adapt or make changes. You've had your own personal experience with burnout. What did that teach you about stress resilience and redefining success?
Burnout, in my case, as well as what I find very, very prevalent in others as well, is that, it's like this silent personal pandemic that takes over, that changes us and transforms us into this very pale, very poor, shadowy version of who we once used to be, and certainly who we aspire to be. We don't even see or recognize when this shadow being comes into us and then fully takes charge and fully control. So the burnout is this silent numbness which just continues to grow over years and decades. And that was my story. And that's what it looked like for me. And what I learned is that, resilience is not just about pushing harder. It's actually about taking an intentional, mindful pause and looking deeper, looking within and recognizing and seeing your own emptiness, the own hurt, your internal hurt and cracks that you have within, and then taking strength in this vision you have of healing yourself. And that's what charges you up and fills you up and gives you this resilience and motivation that actually comes from within. And in order to reach this state of mind, you have to stop and you've got to do that introspection.
I like that you said resilience is not just about pushing harder, but about being intentional in slowing down and in taking that pause. How do you integrate mindfulness and breath work into your coaching, especially with people who are skeptical or unfamiliar with those practices?
See, I think, what, universally, each one of us has somewhat of a skeptic within us. When it comes to something we don't know, we don't recognize, we're not familiar with, right? Then we don't tend to believe it. We believe what we know. So people who have not connected with or resonated or practiced mindfulness, breath work, obviously this sounds like a lot of hocus pocus to them. So my strategy is to meet people where they are at. And for these scientific naysayers, so to say, I do not start with the meditation. I don't start with the breath work. I begin with the science. I talk to them about the nervous system, about emotional regulation, about cognitive overload. And when they understand the connection of how emotions help us transition from the parasympathetic to the sympathetic, and the fact that emotions are energy, and energy, as you and I know, only transforms. So emotions are not created and destroyed, but emotions are transitioned from a more negative and toxic one to a neutral one and then to a positive one. So when I approach it in that manner and then integrate some breath work, a simple technique, they have the opportunity to first get the overview, understand the science intellectually, and then have the real-time experience as well.
You're not just dunking them into the deep end with this. You are taking it slowly, giving them the background, giving them the science, and then slowly, slowly moving them into what will work best for them. We mentioned teens a little bit earlier. I know that you do work with teens, and to make this practical, because lots of our audience members will have teenage children, What are some of the biggest pressures that teens face today, and how can adults better support them?
I feel so thankful that I was a teen about 30 years ago and not, or even 35 years ago, and not in this current digital world, because honestly, it is overwhelming. Teens today, my own kids, teens anywhere in this world currently, they're facing this constant comparison, the digital overload, identity pressures, and despite so much over connectivity, there is emotional isolation. They're overstimulated, but they are under supported. That is what I see about this age group currently. And as adults, we can really help them in a couple of ways. What I would share again is universal. I think this applies to all age group, all relationships, but more specifically in the context of teens, let's try listening to them first and understanding where they are coming from without just going directly into coaching or trying to fix things for them. The second is empowering them with emotional skills and not just the academic ones. I mean, Hilmarie, no, neither you nor I am pretty confident, or no other adult ever went to a school where we were taught about self awareness, understanding our emotions, interpersonal dynamics. I mean, we've had classes on effective communication. That is a subject, but not emotional regulation, right?
And there was hardly any talk even when we were younger. There was no awareness of the need for being aware of mental wellness in ourselves or in others or in our children.
Absolutely. And just to complete my thought there, the third and the clinching strategy is to modeling that same behavior that you want to inspire and inculcate in your teen. Please start by modeling that yourself, because people, teens or adults, we gain by observation and experience, and we all know how to just zone out the noise. So if you're rattling the same thing in monotone again and again to them, clean your room, clean your room. But if your room looks like a pigsty, it's going to go nowhere. So start with cleaning your own room and your own diet and your own schedule first.
Oh, I love that. That is so practical. And as you say, when we were teenagers, the whole thing was don't try to keep up with the Joneses, right? These days, these kids have to keep up with the Kardashians. They are inundated constantly because, as you mentioned, with the digital world around them, that it is difficult for them. But I also love that you said it's up to us as parents to model the right behavior for our kids. I love that. I want to switch from kids to women. I know your advocacy work for women has grown into a real movement, especially with the Sari Walk initiative you started in 2022. Can you walk us through how this idea began, what it represents, and how it has evolved into a yearly community event?
Hilmarie, each individual, each one of us is an inherent leader. We are all born with leadership attributes and qualities, but society has dinned into our heads that leadership is a certain title, leadership is a certain badge, it's a certain gender. And what prompted this movement on my behalf was the need and the desire and intention to proclaim to the world that regardless of our outfit as women, whether it's a sari or a pantsuit, we do not need permission. We are all born leaders and we know it. So each woman, and we have hundreds now over the past 3 to 4 years that come and participate in this event. It's become a community event. Each one brings with her a story of overcoming barriers, reclaiming her shattered confidence, and supporting others. All of this, while embracing the sari as a figurative symbol of our strength despite our emotional vulnerability. So it is a combination of that vulnerability and the strength that coexists in us, and which is our superpower and makes us the amazing leaders that we are. This is the thought process that prompted the walk, and we do a 5K in our saris and we walk like the hero that we are.
I love that. I love that you said we do not need permission to be a leader, that you're breaking the stereotype of what leadership is or what it should look like. So impressed and well done. Congratulations on this Sari Walk initiative. I'm sure it will last for a long time to come. sort of along the same lines, what does leading from within really mean? And what's one small step someone can take to start today?
To me, leading from within means that my decisions, actions, and leadership are anchored in my own self awareness. They come from an emotional place that is steady and has inner clarity and is not stressed or egotistical or needy or rooted in reactivity. So, leadership is really understanding your own intentions, having clarity on your own vision, and then coming from a place of inspiring, uplifting, and positively impacting others around you, as opposed to being a commander in general and just, giving directives and having everybody else follow your order. Lead by example, become a better person yourself, become a better performer yourself, and use these qualities to elevate your leadership.
Excellent. So it's sort of similar also what you said to parents. Be the model for their children. And when it's in a leadership role, lead by example, inspire people. You don't need to command people. I like that. Congratulations on starting a podcast, Soul Sparked. Can you tell us a little bit about your podcast and what impact that you're hoping that it will make?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I am so excited about this journey. And I have been a content creator on social media, different platforms for about 7, 8 years now. And that started simply as an interest, as a lark. It was an extension of my love for human psychology and introspection. And I used the platform to share my personal nuggets and ahas and lessons learned, etc. Now, very recently, this has again pivoted into something more distinct, something more purposeful. So, OYL Soul Sparked is a platform for change makers, for thought leaders, for brands, for businesses to share their mission, share their experience, share their stories, have a collective dialogue, mutually learn from each other, and also hopefully provide my guests visibility and greater connectivity to their ideal audiences.
Excellent. I love that you're doing that and giving people that platform to speak to others. It's excellent. Now we've come to the segment of our show where I will ask you some rapid fire questions, our version of a game show. Are you ready?
Woohoo! Okay, as ready can be.
One book that changed the way you think.
Undoubtedly, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
Fantastic. Meditation, journaling, or movement? What is your go-to practice?
Movement.
A word that grounds you when life gets chaotic.
Inner connection.
One person who's deeply shaped your coaching philosophy.
My mentor, the well-renowned and well-known Sri Sri Ravi Shankar.
What does resilience mean to you?
Not giving up on myself.
What is one thing you do every day, no matter how busy you get?
Switch off my mind. Unplug.
Unplug. I love that. Thank you for playing along. That was easy enough. Now I would like to ask you our signature green pill question. What was your green pill moment, the action or event that was the turning point for you or your career?
I had spent more than 4 decades in trying to be an adult, in trying to grow up, in motivating others, people I facilitated workshops for to be their best version. And my green pill moment was when my own family, my husband, my kids turned around and said to me that when will you choose to be your own best version? When will you take responsibility for your own dreams, passions, and vision for who you want to be? There was this coach, this speaker, this connector of people that I wanted to be when I grew up. And now it was time for me to grow up. That was my green pill moment. Although it sounds very emphatic and it sounds like really blitzy, but really it had been on the slow burn and a flame that had been flickering within me for years and years. And actually, I feel grateful that those closest to me and who cared the most deeply about me saw it, recognized it before I actively could, and helped me connect with it. So after 23 years in hardcore corporate, and 25 years of a passion pathway, my green pill moment was pivoting for good and doing what I loved as a profession, as my mainstay. I am here to connect people and I am here to serve now.
I love that. And I love how you said it was the people closest to you that could see that you weren't living up to the things that you were meant to do. And that helped you to make that very important pivot to where you're now serving to help other people along with on their journey to emotional wellness.
Yeah, they did very tactfully. They knew that they had to get me a little riled up. So they said, stop being a hypocrite. Take responsibility of your own dreams before you go around propagating that to others. They were very artful.
They were telling you what to do to model, as you keep saying now, right? We have to model for other people, whether as a parent, whether as a leader. And your family was saying to you, you have to model the things you are telling, that you are teaching about and talking about.
Absolutely. And everything that I share now or offer as strategies actually comes from my own learnings, from my own mistakes and ahas. So which makes it more, it's something validated by my own experience that I share with my participants or clients now. You're right.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing such a personal experience. I love that. Navixha, thank you so much for sharing your journey, your insights, and the practical wisdom with us today. I think our audience would have learned something new. Your transition from IT leadership to emotional wellness is such a powerful example of listening to your inner voice and maybe to your family and creating meaningful impact.
I am so grateful for being invited to your extremely prestigious platform, the Green Pill podcast, Hilmarie, and I am so thankful for the opportunity to share my thoughts, my journey, and express myself.
Before we wrap up, where can our listeners connect with you or learn more about your programs?
You will find me across all or most of the popular social media platforms. I am on Instagram. I am on LinkedIn. Please connect with me there. I'm on Facebook. And I also have my website and YouTube. So if you simply put my name, Navixha, Navixha, I think all of these should pop up for you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Matrix Green Pill podcast. If this episode helped you reflect or reset, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. It really means a lot to us. Until next time, remember that you are never too old to learn, and it's never too late to change and work on yourself.
If you enjoy our conversations, please like and subscribe. See you next Wednesday.